which I was trying not to think about too much. I'd not seen or heard from Winter since he'd abandoned my bed at great speed after our rather inebriated visit to the karaoke bar. I shouldn't have cared about that, but I did. Another light flicked off inside the building, and I held my breath. A minute or two later, an older witch with a heavy gait shuffled out of the main doors, followed by 3 younger ones. All of them looked tired. The hallowed order of magical enlightenment certainly demands its pound of flesh. I couldn't help wondering what they were working on. It wasn't really my business, not any longer. I didn't want to end my working days feeling like those witches obviously did. I just wasn't that kind of person. All the same, there was no denying my flicker of curiosity. 5 minutes went by, then 10. I sighed. This was ridiculous. Either Winter was inside and still working, and would be for some time yet, or he had already left. Waiting out here was pointless. In any case, if he didn't want to see me, then I could hardly force the matter. I shook my head at my own idiocy just as another witch emerged from the building. This one I recognized. I jumped out of the car and waved. "Eve!" My long-limbed neighbor blinked in surprise, but she smiled and wandered over. "Good to see you, Ivy. What brings you to this part of town?" I twiddled with a loose blonde curl. "Oh," I said in an overly casual tone. "I had a customer headed this way. I thought I'd come by in case you were around and needed a lift home." Eve's smooth brow furrowed. "I have a car. I thought you knew that." I did, of course I did. But if you're looking for some company, I can come with you." She peered at me anxiously, as if worried. "It'll save on petrol, and then I can take the bus in tomorrow morning." I winced internally. Eve was such a nice person that she'd actually do that, but it was hardly fair. Waving my hand dismissively, I smiled. "Oh, no, there's no need for that. It's only because I'm in the area that I dropped by." Given how little I'd seen of her lately, I reckoned she was keeping very long hours. I didn't think that the buses were even running when she left for work these days, and I certainly wasn't filled with urgent desire to get up at that time to drive her back here. I couldn't understand how anyone who wasn't short of 1,000,000 brain cells would want to get up so early. Each to their own, though. For her part, Eve seemed relieved. "I have to make a quick house call on my way home anyway," she confided. "It's for this new assignment I'm on." I pasted on a disinterested look. "Oh, yes?" "There's a group of non-order witches who've been causing a few waves. My mentor wants me to have a chat to one of them and try to get them to cool things." Eve's mentor was originally supposed to be Winter, but instead she'd been assigned to someone else. I nibbled on my bottom lip. "How are things going with your mentor?" "She's great," Eve smiled. "I'm learning so much, Ivy, and it's so much fun." Fun? We clearly had different definitions for that word. Vegging out on the sofa is fun. 14-hour days with a bunch of order geeks are not. "And are there other new witches with you?" I asked, new to Arcane Branch. Eve pressed her lips together as if to avoid giggling. Darn it, she knew exactly why I was here. "Adeptus Exemptus Winter still hasn't taken on a new partner." I wasn't. I mean, I didn't. Arse. I sighed and yielded to the truth. "How's he doing?" "I could give you his phone number and you could ask him yourself," she suggested, with the serene maturity of someone who didn't have an almost soul-destroying crush to deal with. "Or I could tell him you were here and—" "No." The last thing I wanted was for Winter to think I'd been hanging around in the vain hope of seeing him, whether it was true or not. And if I called him and he didn't want to speak to me, I'd feel even worse. He had told me we should forget our night together had ever happened. Anyway, we didn't have anything in common. I had to stop mooning after him and get on with my life. I wasn't a lovesick teenager, even if I felt that way. "I better get going," I said hastily. "Brutus will be wondering where I am." Eve grinned. "Sure, Ivy. If you change your mind, let me know." I nodded distractedly. "I'll see you around." I waited as Eve headed off towards the car park, then turned back to my taxi. I was going home to order a curry, crack open a bottle of wine, and not think about Raphael.